Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. And today I'm finally going to be giving you guys my top 32 quarterbacks in the National Football League. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded my last video. I've been really busy with stuff with school, stuff with work. So I'm finally going to sit down and finally have the time to do this video. And before I get into just starting off at number 32, I'm just going to give you guys my 4 metrics on how I'm ranking these quarterbacks and how I'm measuring from quarterback to quarterback, from position to position. I'd say number one is team success, definitely. You know, a quarterback's main job is to win. Some people view winning as a quarterback stat. You know, guys like Hurts, Mahomes, those guys win a lot and they contribute a lot to winning, and they're going to see themselves very high on my list just because of how much they contribute to winning. I'd say the second one is eye test. You know, you can be winning a lot of games, but if you're not really contributing to winning those games, then that's also something that might drag you down on this list. And just eye test in general, when I watch a game, like, do you look like a top 5 quarterback? Do you look like a top 10 quarterback? How do you match up when I'm just simply watching the game? How do you match up in terms of talent from the quarterback across the field from you? Number 3, I'd say playoff success and playoff performance. You've got to have that it factor. You've got to have that like playoff performance. You have to play well in the playoffs. Justin Herbert threw 4 picks in his playoff game against the Texans. That's going to impact his positioning on this list. Whereas Jaden Daniels is going to rise very high on this list because of the way he performed in the playoffs and really just all season long in clutch situations. So I'd say definitely playoff performance and just overall clutch factor is going to be my third metric in how I'm determining this list. And then fourth, I'd say, is consistency. You can be a one-year wonder like Sam Darnold, but can you be consistent? That's another factor that I'm going to be measuring when ranking these quarterbacks. But with all that being said, let's get straight into this. At number 32, I'm going to have the Cleveland Browns quarterback room. It's going to be the only quarterback room I have in this entire ranking of quarterbacks in the National Football League. But that's because we don't know who the hell the Browns starting quarterback is. It could be Flacco, it could be Kenny Pickett, it could be Shador, it could be Dylan Gabriel. Deshaun Watson's not healthy, but they have 5 active quarterbacks on their roster who have a chance of starting or playing at some point in the 2025 season. So I'm just going to have the whole entire Browns QB room at last place on this list just because of how dysfunctional their franchise is. They haven't declared a week 1 starter yet, so that's why I have the Browns QB room at 32. At number 31, I'm going to have Tyler Shough, rookie quarterback out of Minnesota, who is now playing for the New York Saints, who's going to the New Orleans Saints, who's going to start for the New Orleans Saints. I have Tyler Shough at 31. He might be one of the most pro-ready quarterback prospects that was coming out of the 2025 draft. However, he has a very low ceiling in my opinion, especially with the talent that he's dealing with in New Orleans. Kellen Moore is the new head coach. Olave's health is in question with all his concussion protocol stuff. Rashid Shaheed's coming off a torn ACL. They got rid of Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, who was really their weapons? They have Alvin Kamara. They have Kendre Miller, I believe, as well in the backfield. He just doesn't have a lot of talent to work with. And with a quarterback with that low of a ceiling, you're gonna need a lot of talent around him to succeed and to win games and to put up points on offense. And I just don't see that happening in New Orleans. I believe they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. And that's why I'm going to have Tyler Shough at 31. Not really much else to say about that. At number 30, I'm going to have Daniel Jones. And I'm a Giants fan. I've watched Daniel Jones his entire career. He just doesn't surprise me anymore. He doesn't amaze me at all. And he's going into somewhat of a good situation in Indianapolis. And one of the metrics is playoff performance. He did have a great playoff game against the Vikings, followed up with a Ducks 7-point performance against the Eagles in the divisional round. But other than that 2022 run, he's had no sense of consistency throughout his entire career. And that's what has to plummet him down this list, is just consistency. He'd give me hope over a 2-3 game stretch that he would be somewhat decent, and then he was just never able to pick up on that momentum and become a consistent performer. So that's why I'm going to have Daniel Jones as low as 30 on this list. Maybe he's able to perform on the Colts because of the good situation around him. He has Jonathan Taylor in his backfield, one of the best backs in the NFL. He has Michael Pittman. I believe his tight end's now Tyler Warren. They drafted him in the first round. Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell. He's got weapons. He's got weapons in Indianapolis. I just think he's going to be the player that holds that offense back, and he's going to make Shane Steichen want to rip his hair out. So that's why I have Daniel Jones at 30. At 29, I'm going to have Cam Ward a notch above him. I watched Cam Ward 4 times in college football. I went to 4 games last year. I know I've seen Cam Ward up close. He's the real deal. I can't have him too high on this list yet because we haven't seen him play a snap in the NFL yet. But especially also on top of that, he's heading into a not so good situation in Tennessee. His number one receiver is Calvin Ridley. No disrespect to Calvin Ridley, he's actually a pretty good wide receiver. But in terms of just overall talent, Tennessee, not really the best destination he could have gone to. He is a number one overall pick. I believe he's going to live up to that potential, but I'm going to have him as low as 29 because of we haven't seen him play in the NFL yet. And I believe he does have a high ceiling, but he also does have a pretty low floor. So we're going to see how that plays out for the Titans this season. I'm going to have Cam Ward at 29. Now at 28, I'm going to have Justin Fields, the new New York Jets quarterback. He's kind of going to serve as their bridge quarterback. I believe they're going to look ahead to the 2026 draft to draft a quarterback, maybe Garrett Nussmeier, maybe Drew Aller. Who knows who's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in that class. But I do believe the Jets are going to be picking in the top 5 next year. Justin Fields, for me, team success is the main issue with Justin Fields' eye test, and I'd say team success and consistency has been his issue. He would have stretches in Chicago where he looked very promising. His running ability was up there with Lamar Jackson. I believe he almost ran for 1,000 yards his rookie season, or it might have been his second year starting. But it's just the consistency isn't there. He's never really contributed to winning throughout his entire career. Last year in Pittsburgh, he started 4-2 and they gave up on him because he simply wasn't running the offense to the way that they needed him to. They went to Russ. Russ was able to guide them to the playoffs. So Justin Fields, he's just never been consistent in his career, and that's why I'm going to have him as low as 28. Now at 27, I'm going to have Aaron Rodgers, 41, I believe he's 41 years old now on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to have Rodgers at 27. It may seem low, although Rodgers is a great quarterback. He threw for 28 touchdowns last year. I just don't think he's stepping into a good situation in Pittsburgh. The offensive line is horrible, absolutely atrocious. And on top of that, he's got his Achilles injury that he's still kind of recovering from. You saw when he played on the Jets last year, his mobility was not the same as what it once was. And behind that horrific Pittsburgh offensive line, I believe that's going to pose a lot of problems. I believe he's going to take a lot of hits. He's not going to have a run game. They have Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren. They're decent backs, but he's not going to have a consistent run game behind a terrible offensive line. DK Metcalf's his wide receiver 1. Calvin Austin is his wide receiver 2. They added Jonnu Smith, which was an interesting move. But yeah, I'm going to have Rodgers as low as 27. I really don't see him being a big factor in team success, which is my number one metric, team success. I don't believe Pittsburgh is going to be a successful team in 2025. I believe they're just a retirement hole of a squad now. And including Rodgers, I believe he's at the helm of that whole retirement home kind of vibe going on there in Pittsburgh, and I don't believe it's going to play out well for them. I believe they're going to have a losing season, which is why I'm going to have Rodgers as low as 27. Now at 26, I'm going to put Russell Wilson there, quarterback of the New York Giants. He did take Pittsburgh to the playoffs last year. Do I expect him to do that with the Giants this year? I mean, I hope so. I'm a Giants fan, but realistically speaking, probably not. And Russ, he's a pocket guy. He's probably going to unlock Malik Neighbors' full potential. I wouldn't say full potential. Maybe Jackson Dart is going to be able to do that eventually once he takes over as a starting quarterback. But he's going to be a good bridge. I believe Russ is going to be decent. He's going to be moderate. He's going to not be as trash as Daniel Jones, but not going to be as great as, his old self back in Seattle. So I do believe Russ will kind of stabilize things in New York, give them stable quarterback play, which is what Brian Daboll has never had. Maybe he unlocks some of his old vintage Russell Wilson techniques in Seattle with that deep ball. We have guys like Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors, obviously, Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, Theo Johnson. He's got some pretty good weapons to work with, Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo. But overall, eye test when I watch Russell Wilson, he's not the same player that he once was, and I don't believe he's going to take the Giants to the playoffs this year, so I'm going to have him at 26. At 25, now we're kind of transitioning from the unks, the older quarterbacks, to the younger quarterback prospects that are now going to be starting for their new squads. I'm going to have J.J. McCarthy at number 25 on the Minnesota Vikings. In my power rankings, I had the Vikings really high because I'm projecting J.J. McCarthy to be a great quarterback, but we haven't seen him yet play an NFL snap. So that's why I can't really put him high on this tier list the way I'd want to. I believe he's going to be very successful, but I have to see it first for me to put him higher on this tier list. So I'm going to have J.J. McCarthy at number 25. Eye test, I believe, is a game manager. He reminds me a lot of, honestly, I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. He reminds me of somebody. I remember Harrison Phillips, a D tackle from the Vikings, compared him to Josh Allen in terms of his demeanor and his leadership in the locker room. In terms of talent, I don't see him reaching the ceiling that Josh Allen has reached, But for sure, with the weapons that he has to deal with in JJ, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, he has so many weapons. He's stepping into the perfect situation that any rookie quarterback could step into. It's technically his rookie year, even though it's his second year. He missed his entire rookie year with the torn meniscus. He will be back playing his first NFL snaps on the Minnesota Vikings this year, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to have to offer. But as of right now, I can't put him higher than 25. Now, at 24, I'm going to have Drake May. A lot of people are projecting Drake May to be this Justin Herbert type prospect, and I'm just going to pump the brakes on that slightly. I think people are a little bit overrating Drake May based on what he showed in 2024. Obviously, he had nothing to work with. His receivers were poor. His coaching was poor. His offensive line was poor. Now Mike Vrabel comes in as the new head coach. He has Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator now. I see why people see so much potential in Drake May. However, I'm just not sold yet. I need to see it actually happen for me to be sold on the Patriots. I don't believe they're going to be in the playoffs. They're projected to have an above 500 record on Vegas betting odds. I believe their betting line is over 9.5 wins. They're favored to have 10 wins this season, which is a lot considering they only won 4 last year. So on the Drake May hype, I'm just going to pump the brakes slightly. Stephon Diggs is his wide receiver 1, and he's aging, coming off a torn ACL. Pop Douglas, Kayshon Boutte. I mean, his receivers aren't spectacular. They did revamp the offensive line, brought in Will Campbell, brought in Morgan Moses. Their tackle situation should be set. So we'll see. I believe Drake May does have a high ceiling. I'm just not sure if he's going to be able to reach that with the weapons that he has to deal with in New England. So I'm going to have Drake May at 24. Ahead of him, I'm going to have Michael Penix Jr. at 23, the Atlanta Falcons quarterback, because as opposed to Drake May, who it's a lot of projection, it's a lot of, oh, I think Drake May is this, I think he hasn't actually done it yet. Michael Penix stepped in late in the year and showed and brought results to Atlanta. They were putting up 30 points a game on everybody pretty much. I saw Michael Penix last year go into Washington on Sunday Night Football and duel against Jaden Daniels. Took Jaden Daniels to overtime, was a missed field goal away from going into Washington and beating Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Put up an awesome performance, throwing for a touchdown late in the game to Kyle Pitts. Put up like 34 points in the Panthers late in the year. He was excellent when he stepped in. He looked like he was very prepared, very composed in the pocket. He throws one of the best footballs in the NFL in terms of a spiral. He has one of the prettiest balls in the NFL. Michael Penix, I believe, is the real deal, and he's going to put up numbers this year in Atlanta with Drake London, with Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. He has great weapons to deal with in Atlanta, and I believe that he's really being slept on. I'm not going to lie. I think Michael Penix is very slept on, and I'm going to have him at 23 because of what I saw eye test-wise in his 3 starts. He looked like he was very ready, and he looked talented, and he could really sling the rock, and that's why I'm going to have him at 23. Now at 22, I'm going to have Bryce Young one notch ahead of Michael Penix simply because he has more experience under his belt, and he showed a stretch of consistency late in that 2024 season. He actually beat Michael Penix in the final game of the regular season in his house. Bryce Young put up 40 points on that Falcons defense. He showed a lot of promise with limited weapons. Now the Panthers are really investing in their offense and investing in Bryce Young. They want to see Bryce Young's full potential. They went out and drafted Tetairoa McMillan with the 8th overall pick in the draft. I believe that's a huge addition because his wide receiver 1 previously was Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen. That just wasn't going to cut it. Now you bring in a dog like Ted McMillan, probably the best wide receiver prospect in the draft outside of Travis Hunter. Ted McMillan's going to be a huge impactor early for this Panthers offense. I believe he's going to get a lot of targets, and Bryce Young is going to be successful, I believe, in 2025. Hopefully he builds off of that success that he had with Dave Canales late last year, and I believe they're going to be one of the more promising young head coach and quarterback duos in the NFL in 2025. That's why I'm going to have Bryce Young at 22. Now at 21, this might be a little low and a little disrespectful, but I'm going to have Tua Tagovailoa at 21. And simply, it's the last part, consistency. Consistency, man, and team success. Eye test, when he's healthy, he looks like probably a top 15, top 10 quarterback in terms of accuracy. Playoff performance, he put up a stinker in Kansas City and put up a stinker the week before that in Week 18 against Buffalo at home. Really, in these clutch situations, Tua kind of tends to shrink instead of shine, and that's really all we've seen of Tua. His clutch time performances have not been good. Team success, he's really only had one great year in 2023. He had a good year, I believe, the previous year in 2022, but he got injured right before. I believe he was having those concussion problems late in the year. I believe he suffered a concussion against Green Bay on Christmas, then wasn't able to finish the season. Then 2023 was his first full healthy season, and then they went 11-6, lost a chance to win the division in Week 18 at Buffalo, and then put up a stinker in Kansas City, only scoring 7 points. And consistency, he can't stay on the field. Tua simply cannot play 17 games in a season healthy. It's just, we haven't seen it, only in 2023, and that's not a large sample size. He's been in the league since 2020, and his peers from that draft class, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert, have surpassed him fully in terms of success in the NFL. So that's why I'm going to have to put Tua really low on this list. I don't want to, but just his concussion issue is a real problem. And if he can't stay on the field, then I can't put him high on this list. And on top of that, when he is on the field, he just tends to shrink in big moments. So I'm going to have to put Tua at 21. At 20, I'm going to have Kyler Murray. I'm only really putting Kyler ahead of Tua because he's more mobile. Eye test, Kyler Murray for some weeks will look like a top 5 quarterback with the way he moves around in the pocket, the way he's able to extend plays, how accurate he is from game to game. He had a game against the Rams early this year where he found Marvin Harrison for 2 touchdowns early in the first quarter, completely dismantled the Rams' elite defense in week 2, and he never was able to replicate that performance again as the season went on. And I believe the main issue with Kyler Murray is consistency. I remember the Cardinals started 8-0. I'm not sure if it was it might have been 2021. The Cardinals started 8-0 in 2021 and didn't even win the division. They crumbled late in the year with Cliff Kingsbury as his head coach. Kyler Murray has shown signs of living up to that number 1 pick potential. He's getting paid a lot of money, but he's just never able to be consistent. And team success, likewise to Tua, they've only been to the playoffs once in their career. So I just need to see more prolonged success from both Kyler and Tua to rank them higher on this list. But I do believe in terms of career trajectory, they're kind of on the same trajectory of career. And they might end up on new teams very soon if their front office is getting patient with them. Now at number 19, I'm going to have Sam Darnold. And likewise, this is where we're getting into a tier now where I'll kind of sneak peek the guys ahead of them. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray, Tua Tagovailoa. It's just consistency is their biggest problem. They've shown signs of being franchise quarterbacks. They're on teams who consider themselves to be franchise quarterbacks. Geno Smith just agreed to a 3-year contract with the Raiders. Sam Darnold a 3-year contract with the Seahawks. And Kyler Murray and Tua are both locked in on long-term deals. So they are technically their franchise quarterbacks, but they don't play and they don't perform and they don't have the team success of franchise quarterbacks, and they're not as consistent as what a franchise quarterback should be. So that's why I kind of had them in this mid to low tier, kind of slightly below average. So at number 19, I'm going to have Sam Darnold. You got to give the guy credit. He just went 14-3. Although he had a meltdown in the last 2 games of the year, he still was performing at an extremely high level, operating Kevin O'Connell's offense. He was probably dealing with the best weapons in the NFL: Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, all playing at the peak of their powers. Sam Darnold was able to, I believe, maximize his potential. He's never going to top a season like he just had in 2024. That'll never happen again for Sam Darnold. That is his ultimate ceiling. And I believe he's not able to reach that same ceiling that he wasn't in Minnesota with the Seahawks because he doesn't have the same personnel. And he does have Clint Kubiak as his offensive coordinator in Seattle. He is a great coordinator, so maybe he will still be somewhat successful. But he's not as good as Kevin O'Connell was in Minnesota. And he doesn't have the same quality of weapons. He's going from Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to Cooper Kupp, maybe a washed Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I believe they did draft Elijah Arroyo in the 2nd round, tight end out of UM. He's actually pretty solid. But it's just not the same quality of weapons as it is in Minnesota and Seattle. So that's why I'm going to have Sam Darnold at number 19. I don't expect the Seahawks to be a playoff team, and I believe it's because although their roster is really talented, I just think Sam Darnold's going to hold them back this year. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions, and I believe he will downgrade from his 2024 season. So I'm going to have him at number 19. Now, at number 18, Geno Smith. The Raiders, the new now Las Vegas Raiders quarterback, Geno Smith, is who I'm going to have at number 18. I'm going to have him above Darnold, Murray, and Tua simply because he's just been slightly more consistent since he started his career in Seattle. I believe he started his career in Seattle. It might have been 2022, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 2022 where he started in Seattle. And from 2022 to 2024, that's 3 straight seasons. He had great completion percentages, great touchdown to interception ratios, a lot of passing yards. He was throwing to DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Tyler Lockett. Now on the Raiders, he does get his old head coach back in Pete Carroll. And on top of that, he does have Brock Bowers, he has Jacoby Myers, and now he has Ashton Genty. So I do believe Pete Carroll is going to implement a culture there in Las Vegas that they haven't had in a very long time. So I do expect Geno Smith to have somewhat of a decent season. However, it's just this division's so tough that they're probably going to end up fourth in the division, but they'll be competitive. And it's going to be because Geno Smith is a great game manager. He's very consistent, and I believe he's going to throw for a lot of yards and probably a lot of touchdowns, maybe a lot of interceptions as well, but he has been more consistent than Darnold, Murray, and Tua. And for the past 3 years, from 2022 to 2024, he's been the more consistent quarterback, which is why I have him above those three guys. Now at number 17, this is going to probably be where I enter a stage of projection where they haven't shown it on the field. They haven't been as consistent as I've wanted them to be, but their potential and their talent, they've got to be high on this list, or somewhat high than most people would have them. So I'm going to have Caleb Williams at number 17. The situation he had to deal with in Chicago was awful. Just straight up awful. Head coach got fired midseason. His pass game coordinator became his head coach. Now he has Ben Johnson stepping in. The Bears' expectations are now through the roof. If Caleb Williams does not have a great year, I think the expectation is playoffs for Chicago. And it should be, because Caleb's the number one overall pick. Jaden Daniels just took his squad to the NFC Championship game. Caleb was drafted before Jaden, so that should be the expectation. That should be the standard. If Caleb Williams does not take a huge step in year 2, then I believe it's considered, I wouldn't say a failure, but I believe definitely underachieving. And he did underachieve year 1, but it was because of just the overall awful situation he had to deal with in Chicago, with just the dysfunction in the front office and in the coaching staff. And I believe now with Ben Johnson, he's going to have a way more stable coaching staff. He's got weapons now: Colson Loveland, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, DeAndre Swift. Like, come on, man. With those weapons, you got to be putting up crazy numbers. Ben Johnson will put in a great playbook, and he will maximize Caleb's strengths and try to hide his weaknesses the same way he did with Jared Goff in Detroit. So that's why I'm going to have Caleb as high as 17. Eye test. He doesn't have the team success yet. He doesn't have the playoff performance, and he doesn't have the consistency yet. But eye test, when I watch Caleb Williams, I see a top 10 quarterback in terms of potential, and I hope he reaches that this season. But because he doesn't meet the other 3 metrics, he only meets 1, I can only put him as high as 17. But I do believe Caleb Williams will have a huge year too. I hope he does. As a fan of football, you want to see that. You want to see Chicago becoming a winning football team once again. So I have Caleb Williams at 17. Now at 16, I'm going to have Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback. Again, this is another projection. Trevor has not played like the 16th best quarterback in the NFL leading up to this point. The only year that he's really kind of achieved his status as a number 1 overall pick was 2022, when he took the Jags to the playoffs, went 9-8, won the division, hosted a playoff game, came back down from 27-0 against Justin Herbert, and the Chargers won that playoff game. Almost went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs in the divisional round. So Trevor Lawrence, I believe, peaked in 2022. I do expect him to reach an entirely new peak with a new head coach in Liam Cohen. I believe Liam Cohen, I mentioned this in my power rankings video, he's going to maximize Trevor's potential the way that he maximized Baker's potential in Tampa. I expect him to do the same in Jacksonville, which is why I'm going to have Trevor Lawrence as high as 16. But likewise to Caleb, team success has not been there. He has the same record as Daniel Jones, which I believe is kind of crazy to think about. I have Jones at 30 and Trevor at 16. But eye test, when I watch Trevor Lawrence, he has so much potential. He has so much talent. And talent has to be ranked high, but it can't be ranked higher because he doesn't have the team success. The playoff performance is there. I believe the clutch factor is there. So I do believe he passes the eye test and he passes the playoff performance. But just the team success and consistency have been issues for Trevor in his career, especially staying on the field. But I do expect him to take a huge leap in 2025, which is why I'm going to have him at 16. Now let's transition into the top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL, starting with Bo Nix at number 15. The Denver Broncos quarterback. I have very high expectations for the Denver Broncos this season. I believe it's because Sean Payton and Bo Nix now have another offseason to regroup, for Bo Nix to strengthen his knowledge of the offense and understanding of Sean Payton's offense. And he showed a lot of signs of being very good and very solid. And in his year 1, in his rookie season, it started off rocky, going 0-2, and then after that, he took off and he threw for 28 touchdowns. He was great in both scrambling and in the pocket. He really started to gain an understanding of the concepts that Sean Payton likes to run, and he was very accurate and he was very composed as he got more comfortable with the offense later on as the season went on. And I believe he's going to pick up off that momentum in 2025. The playoff performance wasn't great against Buffalo, But in terms of consistency, he passes that metric. Playoff performance, not quite there yet, but I do expect Denver to be right back in the playoffs next year. Eye test, he looked like a franchise quarterback. Simply, he just looked very calm and composed as the season went on. He looked like he was in control of the offense. He was being a leader of that offense. And now he has even bit more talent to deal with. He's got RJ Harvey, the UCF running back, who's now going to be in that backfield. He's now as J.K. Dobbins, so a much improved backfield that he has to work with now in J.K. Dobbins and RJ Harvey. They brought in Evan Ingram, so now he has a reliable tight end threat. So now they got Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. I'm blanking on who their wide receiver. I believe it might be Troy Franklin, who is their wide receiver 3. And now they have Evan Ingram. So they have some weapons now in that offense, more weapons than he had last year. So I do expect Bo Nix to take another step ahead in 2025, and I do believe the Broncos will challenge the Kansas City Chiefs for the AFC West title heading into next season. So I have high expectations for Bo Nix. I'm going to have him at number 15. Now at number 14, I'm going to have Brock Purdy. Now we're entering a new kind of category of quarterback tiers. And I'm going to, like I did before, I'm going to sneak peek those tiers. It's kind of this like inconsistent tier of quarterbacks where it's Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy. These three. I had a lot of trouble ranking these three from 1 to 3, from 1, 2, and 3. But I'm going to have Purdy last simply because of eye test. They just paid him, the Niners just paid him over $50 million a year. I don't think it's going to be a mistake, but I don't believe Brock Purdy has the ceiling of a top 10 quarterback. I believe Brock Purdy does have kind of I wouldn't say a low ceiling because they were able to reach a Super Bowl with Purdy as a starter, but that was with him on a minimum contract. That was him getting less than $1 million per year salary since he was Mr. Irrelevant. Now you're paying the guy $50 million. So he's not going to have the same supporting cast. They had to move off Debo. Eventually, Trent Williams is going to retire. Christian McCaffrey's health is uncertain. Last year, when all those question marks became realities of is the team going to stay healthy, he crumbled. He simply crumbled. I don't believe he's very clutch, in my opinion. In the Super Bowl, they had an opportunity to win that game in overtime if he simply just scored a touchdown. I believe it was a third down. Chris Jones was unblocked, and he simply just threw it away. That's a moment when you could have been clutch, when you could have made a play for your team. And so many moments last year, he just simply wasn't clutch, and he wasn't able to rise above and kind of rise up the players around him. And he's really relying on a supporting cast, in my opinion, which is why I'm going to have him as low as number 14. Playoff success is there. Team success is there apart from last year. I believe Purdy's one of those guys when everything around him is wrong, he can't make it right. And the quarterbacks above him have the ability to do that. So that's why I'm going to have Purdy at number 14. Now, moving on to 13, I'm going to have Dak Prescott one spot ahead of him. Although Purdy has beaten Dak in the playoffs, I just believe Dak's a better quarterback straight up. I just think he is. In 2023, I believe it was, Dak had an MVP season, threw for 36 touchdowns. Last year, his season was cut short. Now he's got another weapon to deal with in that offense. They're not so CeeDee Lamb dependent. Now they have George Pickens. So I do believe Dak is going to kind of return back to that 2023 form that he had in Dallas. I believe he has now a new head coach in Brian Schottenheimer. I'm not entirely sure where the offensive coordinator is, but I do expect Dak to be more improved from last season as they're not as CeeDee Lamb dependent. They now have Javonte Williams in their backfield. They drafted Tyler Booker, so now his offensive line's even better than it was previously. And I do believe Dak is going to be pretty good in 2025. I have pretty good expectations for Dak. I believe Dallas is going to be a competitive team in 2025. And I just believe he's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy in terms of accuracy, in terms of just doing more with less around him. Dak has been very good at doing that throughout his career. So I am going to have Dak a notch ahead of Brock Purdy at number 13. Now at number 12, I'm going to have Jordan Love, the Green Bay Packers quarterback. Jordan Love is a really kind of difficult quarterback to rank, in my opinion, because I think he's inconsistent. I think he's a little bit overrated, but in terms of talent, I do believe he has a higher ceiling. He has the talent. He has more talent than Dak and Brock Purdy, so I have to rank him above those two quarterbacks. But inconsistency, that's his main issue. The playoff performance was there in Dallas. He had that amazing game when he put up 48 points in Dallas, so there's no doubt that he can't perform in the playoffs and he can't perform in big games. In Detroit, I believe it was on Thursday Night Football, he put up 31 points in that Detroit defense. He can sling the rock, man, and he hasn't had the best of weapons to deal with, but it's just the inconsistency is his biggest issue. He reminds me a little bit of Tua in terms of his health. He can't really stay healthy for a majority of the season. This year, he was struggling a lot with injuries. He started the year, it might have been his ankle, I'm not sure. It might have been a sprained ankle that he suffered early in that game against Philadelphia. in week 1. He kind of missed like 4 games, and later on in the year he missed another couple of games, and Malik Willis was having to play a lot for a large stretch. But when he was on the field, he actually was pretty decent. So Jordan Love, I'm going to have at number 12 because I do think he has a higher ceiling than Purdy and Dak, but the inconsistency is his biggest issue. Along with Dak, he's shown inconsistency throughout his career, and Purdy has also shown inconsistency last season when he didn't have all of his weapons. So that's why I'm going to have Jordan Love ahead of those 2 quarterbacks at number 12. Now we're getting into the borderline top 10. At number 11, I'm going to have Baker Mayfield. Honestly, I was really tempted to put him top 10 because I love Baker. I love his play style. I do believe he does have that it factor. Liam Cohen really did a masterclass in terms of turning around his career. And I believe he's now smooth sailing. Even though Liam Cohen is gone, just the amount of weapons he has to deal with, he's really found his footing and found his home in Tampa Bay. He's going to have Mike Evans, Emeka Ibuka, Chris Godwin, and Jalen McMillan to throw to next season. On top of that, he has Bucky Irving and Rachaad White in his backfield. He has so many weapons to deal with now. I expect Baker to put up, once again, huge numbers in Tampa Bay with just the amount of surplus of weapons that he has to deal with. I forgot to even mention Cade Otton. Baker has so many weapons to throw to, and he performed at such a high level last year. I believe he had 40 total touchdowns last year, put up insane numbers in Tampa Bay. And the playoff performance is there. He's won 2 playoff games. He's 2-2 in his playoff career. And when he has played in the playoffs, he's put up numbers. Against Philadelphia 2 seasons ago, Tampa Bay was underdogs in that game, and they pretty much shocked the world, beating the former NFC champions. The Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl in 2022. Then in 2023, Tampa Bay beat them in the playoffs. Baker put up an excellent performance in that game, followed it up with another decent performance in Detroit, put up 23 points in the Lions. Then in Cleveland, he had that amazing game against Pittsburgh. So when Baker has been to the playoffs, he's performed well. He kind of underperformed this year against Washington. Actually, I'm tripping. Baker's 2-3. Baker's 2-3 in the playoffs. He lost this year to Washington. But Baker has played well in the playoffs. He's played well, which is why I'm going to have him at 11. And in these past 2 seasons with Tampa Bay, he's been extremely consistent. So I am going to have Baker Mayfield ranked 11th overall on this list. At number 10, I'm going to have Jared Goff cracking the top 10. I was really tight between Baker and Goff, but Goff did beat Baker last year in the playoffs, not this past year, but the year before that. And Goff has been extremely consistent since he's taken over in Detroit. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the NFL just because of his storyline of how the Rams basically gave up on him, sent him to Detroit to die, and he ends up revitalizing his career in Detroit and making them a powerhouse in the National Football League. I love Jared Goff's story, man. I love his resilience, and I love his play on the field. He's one of the most accurate and best pocket passers left in the NFL currently. He's not the type of quarterback that's going to scramble around and make plays with his feet, but he is a surgeon in the pocket. And unfortunately, what has him stuck at number 10 on this list is his playoff inconsistencies at times. That Super Bowl against the Patriots when he massively underperformed, only put up 3 points. And then this past year, man, that has to sting. Going 15-2 in the regular season just to put up a stinker in the divisional round against the Washington Commanders, throwing, I believe it was 3 interceptions and losing a fumble, having 4 turnovers, costing your team a chance to win a Super Bowl. Going out like that was sad. I believe he's going to have a major bounce back season. I do believe Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback in this league, and I'm going to have him at number 10. At number 9, this might be, I don't even think it's controversial. I just think it's what should be everyone's opinion on Justin Herbert. He's not a top 5 quarterback at all. I've seen people project him as a top 5 quarterback. He's just not. I'm tired of this projection of Justin Herbert. He hasn't really put up the results that people project him to put up, or people make it seem like he's this good when he really isn't. And it just hasn't translated to team success. The main reason why everyone has him ranked so high is eye test, and that's only one of the 4 metrics I have. I'd say he's somewhat consistent, but when it comes to the playoffs, team success and playoff performance, he just hasn't met those metrics. And you can't be a top 5 quarterback when you haven't met those metrics. And that's why I'm going to have Justin Herbert at number 9. There's no question in terms of talent. He's probably a top 5 quarterback talent, but the intangibles and just the overall clutch factor has not been there. It hasn't been there. And until we see it, Justin Herbert can't be ranked higher on this list. So, Mr. Hypothetical, I'm going to have him at number 9. Moving on to number 8, I'm going to have the guy who beat him in the playoffs this year, CJ Stroud, at number 8 ahead of Justin Herbert. He does have two playoff wins under his belt. Justin Herbert has 0. And what has Justin Herbert done that CJ Stroud hasn't done? Justin Herbert won Rookie of the Year, so did CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, that same year he won Rookie of the Year, won a playoff game at home against the Browns. Then followed that up with a sophomore slump, but a sophomore slump that was a divisional round playoff exit. I would consider a sophomore slump being, oh, you didn't make the playoffs. No, the guy won a playoff game. People say, oh, yeah, he had a sophomore slump. He won a playoff game despite being labeled as it being a sophomore slump, which just goes to show how great he's been since taking over in Houston. He overachieved expectations in year one, taking, I believe it was a 3 or 4 win Texans team all the way to the playoffs, winning the division. And then following that up the year after that, they had sky high expectations, but ended up falling short of that as they ran into the Chiefs in the playoffs. And he had to go through so much adversity this past year with a horrible offensive line and losing Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and Nico Collins all at certain points in the season. He lost Nico Collins early, got him back, and then had Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs go down with season-ending injuries. So it is really unfortunate what happened to his receiving core and just his weapons in general in Houston last year. And now this year he's going to have Jaden Higgins, who they drafted in the second round. I believe he's going to be a pretty decent receiver. And he's going to have Nico Collins obviously returning. But I'm going to have him at number 8 because I believe the 7 quarterbacks ahead of him are simply just better. And yeah, that's why I'm going to have CJ at number 8. Still pretty high on the list, though, compared to what other people I've seen have had CJ at. I'm going to have him at number 8. At number 7, I'm going to have Matthew Stafford. Honestly, gut feeling, I believe he's a top 5 quarterback. I probably should be putting him 5, but the other 2 quarterbacks were in the NFC Championship game this past year, so I'm going to have Stafford at number 7. And the reason why I have Hurts and Jaden Daniels ahead of him is simply because of age. Stafford is reaching the very end of his career. Pretty much every year he plays now, it's like LeBron. Every year that Stafford plays could be his last. Every year that LeBron plays could be his last. Although they're both performing at extremely high levels, you just never know when they're going to call it quits. So that's why I'm going to have Stafford at number 7 behind Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels. But yeah, Stafford still performing at an extremely high level. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion. He was this close to going into Philadelphia and snatching their hearts late in that game. He was down 6 points, driving with the game on the line, ended up taking a sack from Jalen Carter, losing that game. But he was that close to upsetting the Super Bowl champions in their building in the snow. So I do believe Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league despite his age. He has great weapons to deal with this season with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. That's just a disgusting duo. He also has Kyron Williams in his backfield. Sean McVay is his head coach. Team success, eye test, playoff performance, consistency. He passes all of those metrics. It's just simply his age that holds him back from being a top 5 quarterback, because I do believe the 2 ones ahead that I have ahead of him definitely will surpass him in terms of performance this year. At number 6, no, it is not Jalen Hurts, it's Jaden Daniels. I do have Jalen Hurts as the best NFC quarterback, but as of right now, for number 6, I'm going to have Jaden Daniels, simply because he did fall short in the NFC Championship game when he played head-to-head against Jalen Hurts. And yes, that could be due to his inconsistency, but it also comes down to, losing my train of thought here. Jaden Daniels, yeah, awesome rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons of all time. It is the best rookie season of all time. Jaden Daniels was spectacular this season, instantly climbs up all the way to number 6 on the tier on my quarterback rankings, and he's spectacular, and I do believe he will follow up on that success in terms of the 4 metrics. Team success led his team to the NFC Championship game. Eye test, my God, he looked incredible. Using his feet, clutch factor, playoff performance, he was probably the clutchest quarterback last year out of everyone. He was just winning all of these close games, having all of these game-winning drives, and consistency, he was consistent all season long. So a sophomore slump is on the table for Washington in general as a team. I don't believe it's on the board for him. I believe he's the real deal, and he's not going to have a down season next year. He's going to simply follow up on the success he had this past year, which is why I have him at number 6, but I cannot have him above the Super Bowl MVP. It's time to give this man his damn respect. Jalen Hurts, I'm going to have him as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. It's been debated pretty much all offseason. Is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback? Is he even a top 10 quarterback? Just the way people are talking about him, it's just the disrespect. It's insane to me. It's simply insane. I believe Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. In the 2 biggest games on the biggest stage, the 2 Super Bowls he's played in, he's just played spectacular. He's looked like he's been ready for the moment. He looks like he belongs in the moment. And I believe he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes in both the Super Bowls they've played against each other. Obviously, Mahomes beat him in the first one, but Hurts put up 4 total touchdowns. If the Eagles win that game, he is no doubt the Super Bowl MVP. Some people were debating that he should have been the Super Bowl MVP despite losing because he did outplay Mahomes by an extreme margin. 3 rushing touchdowns, threw the ball way better than Mahomes. Mahomes had like 180 passing yards. But Hurts was spectacular, man, in that first Super Bowl. Ended up falling short, putting up 35 points and still falling short. Following that up, returning to the Super Bowl, putting up 40 points in the on the Chiefs defense. What baffles me is people think Hurts can't throw. The Chiefs in this past Super Bowl literally looked him in the eye and said, "Beat us. We don't think you can." Steve Spagnuolo challenged Jalen Hurts, challenged Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore to make Jalen Hurts beat him. And what did he do? He beat the shit out of them. He threw for 3 touchdowns. I believe, no, he threw for 2 and rushed for 1. Had that deep ball to Devontae Smith. He threw the ball excellently against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. When they challenged him to throw, they completely shut Saquon down. I believe Saquon had like under 2-3 yards a carry. So, although the running game did take the Eagles to the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts won them the Super Bowl. So this man deserves his respect. He's one of the best. He has one of the best playoff winning percentages out of any quarterback of all time. And Hurts, man, he's the real deal. And people got to start putting respect in his name. And that starts now in this video. I'm going to have him as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Now at number 4, I'm going to have Lamar Jackson. Lamar has won 2 MVPs. In terms of individual success, that's why he's above Hurts. He hasn't had the same playoff success that Hurts has had. But in terms of eye test, he is the better quarterback, obviously. Lamar's just a spectacular quarterback. He just doesn't live up to his regular season play in the playoffs, and that's why I'm going to have him at number 4. He's simply not better than the 3 quarterbacks I have above him. And at number 3, I'm going to have Joe Burrow. I do believe Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. It's what he's shown in the playoffs. All of these quarterbacks now that we're heading into the top 5, top 6, top 7, they all meet the 4 metrics of team success, eye test, playoff performance, and consistency. Joe Burrow I believe has a higher ceiling than Lamar Jackson. When Joe Burrow's at his best, he's the best quarterback in the NFL in my opinion. He's pretty much done what no other active quarterback has been able to do, which is beat Mahomes in the playoffs. Well, I guess now Jalen Hurts did, but really in the AFC, no one's been able to challenge Mahomes the way that Tom Brady and Joe Burrow have challenged Mahomes in the AFC. Tom Brady's obviously not playing anymore, so that mantle is now on Joe Burrow. He's the only active quarterback in the AFC that has beaten Mahomes in a high leverage situation. He's beaten Mahomes 3 times. And I know that was back in 2022. I don't care. I still believe that Joe Burrow can reach that pinnacle again in his career. He just needs support from his franchise, from his team. They've re-signed both of his wide receivers. Joe Burrow is going to put up stupid numbers this year in 2025 with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, Chase Brown in his backfield. Joe Burrow is a top 3 quarterback, and that's why I have him at number 3. Can't have him above Josh Allen, though, at number 2. Josh Allen, pretty much, man, Josh Allen's one of those players. He's like Charles Barkley. If Charles Barkley did not play in the era of Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley would probably have 2-3 rings. Charles Barkley was ringless, never won a ring. And it might be the same situation with Josh Allen. I believe that does change this year. I do have the Bills. I think I said it in my power rankings. I do believe I have the Bills as favorites to win the Super Bowl ahead of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not going to reach 4 straight Super Bowls. That's like ridiculous. I just don't think it's going to happen. I believe this is the year that the Bills dethrone the Chiefs. It has to come at some point, and I believe it will this year. But since Mahomes beat Josh Allen this year in the playoffs, I can't have Josh Allen above Mahomes. But man, Allen's incredible. His feet, his legs, well, both. His running ability and his throwing ability has been spectacular. And last year, it was pretty much at his best, and he won his first MVP last year. However, he simply fell just short. He had a chance to have a game-winning drive late in that game, down 3 points, and he wasn't able to get it done. But I do believe he will be back this year, and Josh Allen passes every metric with flying colors, team success. He's pretty much won the division from his second year starting all the way up, leading up to this point. He's won about like 5 straight division titles in the AFC East. He owns that division. Team success is there. Eye test obviously is there. His probably one of the best scrambling quarterbacks, if not the best scrambling quarterback in the NFL, probably behind Lamar and Jaden Daniels. But just the brute power that he runs with, the way he's able to combine his scrambling ability with his throwing ability is second to none in the NFL. Probably has the best arm talent in the league. Playoff performance is obviously there, except when it comes against Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. I believe he's 0-5 against those 2 quarterbacks. But playoff performance is there. He does have a winning record in the playoffs, and consistency. He's obviously is one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL. That's why I have Josh Allen at number 2. Now, coming in at number 1, it's a no-brainer. It's Patrick Mahomes. Who else would it be? 3 Super Bowl championships, 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl MVPs. He's at the top of the mountain right now, and really no one's going to dethrone him until somebody. I really don't see anyone else dethroning him for the rest of his career. He's just simply that good, and he's that clutch. And he just went 15-1 in the regular season as a starter. So no one's really going to dethrone Mahomes for a while, in my opinion, unless he has some crazy serious injury, and that's what derails his career. But other than that, nothing can really dethrone Patrick Mahomes at this point in his career. And that is going to be it for this video. I know this is probably my longest video that I've ever released, but I had to give this content to you guys, and I will be back. I'm not quite sure what video I'm going to be releasing next, but until then, I will see you guys next time.